I just purchased a Ubiquiti UniFi UNVR Pro, which is a 7-bay recorder for surveillance camera. It looks like a NAS and it works like a NAS, but unfortunately, Ubiquiti decides to hide all the technical details from the UI, so that it's very hard to understand how the RAID really works. So today let me do some examples using 4 TB drives. Let's see in different situations how the RAID works. In this video, I'm going to use 3 different tools to show you the different RAID mode. First, I'm going to use the built-in Protect software, and then the other information source is Ubiquiti's help, and the third part is a tool you need to use SSH and then log on to the Ubiquiti. So first, before we dig into the details, let's first look at the tool itself. Let me go to the system settings, and the general. Here you go. You have the storage and the capacity. So this is all you have. This is all you can control. In fact, the only thing you can really control is this setting. We can elaborate it later. So basically, it just gives you a beautiful picture and several flashing lights. That's it. It doesn't tell you what's the RAID mode, and it has 7 different bays. It doesn't tell you if I only insert 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, what will happen. It only tells you, okay, the Ubiquiti software will be smart enough. It will manage the RAID for you. But I'm not satisfied with the answer. I want to know more details, right? So if you check Ubiquiti's help, again, it doesn't have many details, but it does have some very important information. For example, it mentioned RAID 1, RAID 5 in what scenarios, and then in what scenarios it will use RAID 10. So that's what we need to find out in this video. And interestingly, if you compare the command line output with the Ubiquiti's help, you can see you may know so Ubiquiti's software is based on Linux, right? Simply use Linux kernel's default original RAID support. So as you can see here, the personalities part, in fact, the hardware and the software themselves, they do support linear RAID 0, 1, 4, 5, 6, and 10. But according to the help, it only supports 1, 5, and 10. So apparently Ubiquiti did something so that it exclude other RAID modes which are supported by the Linux kernel. Okay. And another interesting setting is here. You can switch between one disk and half of disks. To be honest with you, the option here are even more confusing to me. I need to find out what it really means. That's the purpose of this video. Okay, so basically I'm going to have 3 different sections in this video. First part, let's go through the process. I will install the hard drives one by one from 1 drive to 7 drives. Let's see how the software behaves, how it support different RAID mode automatically. Then I will swap out a drive just to simulate a hard drive failure. Let's see how the system will handle that. And the third part, let's try to explore the option of the so-called half of the disks. Let's see how the software can support RAID 10. Before installing any hard drives, let's see what the system looks like. This is the Protect UI, and if you click on the UNVR Pro, you will see the capacity is 0 and the hard drive is showing gray color and it has no utilization, no capacity at all. Let me launch a terminal. Okay, let's SSH into the UNVR server. Okay, so we are in. The way to show the RAID mode is the standard Linux way. So basically you want to display this procedure md stat. This is the Linux RAID mode display. Okay, so now you can see this device support these types of RAID mode, and now it doesn't have anything installed yet. The UniFi Protect is available after maybe 1 minute, and here on the storage utilization you can see it shows the capacity of my very first hard drive. It shows 4 terabytes, and I don't see it's showing anything about the RAID mode. So then let's go to SSH to find it out. Okay, now I'm in the terminal. Let's run the same command to show the current RAID mode. Interesting. As you can see, now we only inserted 1 hard drive, but it's showing 2 RAID devices already, and the first one is called MD3, and the way to read this configuration is, so currently the RAID is active, means it's not faulty, it's running, that's good. And then the RAID mode is RAID 1, and it only include 1 hard drive, which is SDA5. So the 0 here means the sequence number of this drive, because now we only have 1 hard drive. And then interestingly here it shows, okay, theoretically for this RAID 1 you need to have 2 hard drive, but now you only have 1, and this U underscore means the U for the very first hard drive, the U means it's good, and the underscore means it's down. So U is up, the underscore is down, so the second hard drive cannot be found. That's very interesting way to configure the very first hard drive. And even more interestingly, it has another RAID device. It's called MD0, and it's much more smaller. It has similar similar configuration as this one, and this is SDA2. I don't know what's SDA2 because I only inserted one hard drive. And interestingly here it also shows, okay, the first drive is up, the second drive is down. Okay, so now this is the very first hard drive is already leads to such interesting result. Let's continue. Because the second RAID device looks very interesting to me, so I decide to go to dig it further. I tried to run fdisk, and yeah, the command is there, but let's try cfdisk. Okay, it's there. Okay, that explains what the SDA235 means. So basically the SDA is the very first 4 terabytes hard drive I installed first, and apparently the Ubiquiti partitioned it into 1, 2, 3, 4 partitions, and then leave 2 big holes for unknown reason. Interesting. And the SDA1 never show up in the Linux MD status. I don't know what's the SDA1 for, but it's just half gigabytes. It doesn't bother me. And it shows 2 and 3 with 2 gigabytes and 1 gigabytes. Apparently one of them is part of the second mysterious RAID device, and this one, the SDA5, that's the major one. It's as 3.6 terabytes. That's what we see, and which is available to UniFi Protect. Interesting. So because this is just the very first hard drive, I already inserted the second one. Let me try to see the status for the second hard drive. I guess it should be SDA-B. Yeah, the same thing, the same hard drive. Oh yeah, the same partition. Interesting. Okay, so now let me quit the CF disk. Let's go back to the UniFi Protect to see how it shows. It doesn't say the second hard drive. Oh, I guess it's because it's configured as RAID 1. That's why, because the 4 terabytes are configured as RAID 1, so that's why the utilizable space is still only 4 terabytes. But let's find it out, because we have the command line tool. Let's display the proc md stat again. Let's see. It has the same 2 RAID device, MD3. Now it consists, it's still RAID 1, and now it consists 2 partitions, SDB5 and SDA5. Interestingly, the number is 0 and 2. Okay, let me see why it is showing the second hard drive is down. Oh, because now it's recovery. It's being recovered. Remember, the very first hard drive, the RAID, so-called RAID 1, basically it's not really a correct RAID 1 because we only had one hard drive, right? So once we insert the second hard drive, the system will try to fix it. So it is working on it, and the current progress is just 1.6%. And I believe that's why here you show the totally 2 hard drive and only 1 is up, because the second one is being recovered. That makes sense. And interestingly, for this so-called MD0 RAID device, it's showing both partitions are up, UU, and it's not being recovered. So I still don't understand what this small hard drive, a small RAID device is for. Apparently it's just 2 gigabytes, if I'm not wrong. I believe only Ubiquiti can explain. Okay, so now let's continue. Let's insert the third hard drive. I'm now even more interested, because I know now even the original RAID 1, the 2 hard drive, is still in recovering mode. Now if I insert the third one, how the system will respond. So interesting. Installed the third hard drive. So this is what UniFi Protect is telling me. Still no change. Exactly the same information as I just installed the very first hard drive. So let's see what's happening behind the screen. Let me switch to the terminal. Same command, cat proc mdstat. Interesting. That explains. So it's still RAID 1. It makes sense, because 3 hard drive is really tough situation. I don't think the system can do better. Yes, RAID 1, that's good. And then now it's showing 3 partitions, and these 2 are from the first 2 hard drives. And this is my third hard drive, SDC, and it's showing S. I believe it means spare, because the system really have no better use of the third hard drive. So basically now it behaves like a hot spare drive. So if anyone of the B or A fails, this one will be activated. Okay, so now, yeah, 2 devices, only 1 is up, the other one is still in recovery mode. Okay, it's almost 5 hours already. Let's see what's the current status of the drive 2 recovery. Cat proc mdstat. Oh, it's only 82%, and it need another 1.5 hours, and the speed is only 130 megabytes. It's not very promising. Okay, let me wait. But you know what? The mysterious MD0 RAID keeps bugging me. Let me try to find out what it is at all. Let me first see whether it's mounted anywhere. MD0. No, I don't see it. I see MD3 is mounted as volume 1. So let me create a temporary folder, MD0MNT, and then let me try to mount the MD0 device to the new folder. MD0 MNT. Aha. Okay. So that explains. See the error message? It says the file system type is swap. So the MD0 is just a swap drive, if you will. Let me show this MD stat again. So MD3 is the real volume 1 for your recording. MD0 is just a swap. But you know what? Let me display the CF disk information. Let's say SDB, doesn't matter. Okay, so see, this is the SB2 device, which is part of the MD0. It's only 2 gigabytes, and you know what? The type is Linux file system. So if you are familiar with Linux, you know there's a very specific file system type. It's called a Linux swap. I don't know why Ubiquiti chose the Linux file system as swap. Anyway, it answers my question. Now finally I know why there are 2 RAID devices. Okay, then I need to wait for another 90 minutes. Let's see what's the result for the device 2 recovery. Seven hours. Finally, the second 4 terabytes hard drive was recovered. Now let's see what's the current status. Okay, so now the system is reshaping. It's not recovery, and it has 4 drives and all of them are ops. You see 4 U's here. And let's see the status of each drive. None of them are showing as spare. Okay, that's good. But let's go to the UniFi Protect. Let's make sure it's refreshed. Okay, it shows the 4 hard drives, which is good sign. But here, for some reason, it is still showing 4 terabytes, even though there's no spare drives already. Let me go back to terminal to understand what happened. I don't quite understand, but here it says RAID 5, so I will have 1 redundancy, so that 3 drive will count. So I should see about 12 terabytes here, but how come I only see 4 terabytes? Let's wait till the so-called reshape process to complete. Then I hope I will see the about 12 terabytes. Okay, it seems just to finish this reshaping process for the 2 additional hard drives, SDD and SDC, it need this minutes. So basically that means 30 some hours. I don't want to wait for that long because I just want to do some testing. I assume after it's done I'm going to see about 12 terabytes in RAID file for my 4 hard drives. So I have to make decision now. I have to kill this process, and I will install all of the 7 hard drives and then start from scratch. Hopefully we can get a RAID file configuration automatically. Okay, now I installed all the 7 hard drives, and as you can see, the utilization is about 24 terabytes, which equals to 4 terabytes. So that makes sense. I assume it's RAID file, and the remaining time is more promising. It's only about 11 hours. And let me go to terminal to make sure that's the case. Run the same command, and yes, so it's active. It's RAID file from 0 all the way to 6. So all the 7 drives, they are active. None of them is spare. And then yeah, 7 and all 7 are up. And this is the remaining minutes, and for the MD0 the same thing, it's already ready. Okay, so once it's done, after about 12 hours, let me test if I simulate a drive failure, how the system will behave. After 14 hours, finally all the 7 LED lights on the UNVR Pro stopped flashing. Now let me check the RAID mode in terminal. Yep, it is active and it is in RAID file mode, and all the 7 drives are up and no any sync activity here. Everything looks good. Okay, so basically to create a 7 hard drives, each one has 4 terabytes, and it totally took about 14 hours. Now let me check the UNVR Protect. Okay, it is showing 24 terabytes, which is correct, and it's showing 7 hard drives. Everything looks good. Let me do a final check. Go to the system settings. Okay, it says everything is great and no problem at this moment. So it's successfully done. So now it confirmed for no matter how many hard drives you install, from 1 to 7, the system will automatically choose either RAID 1 or RAID file. If here you say 1 disk, later we will try the other option. But before we switch to the other option, let me simulate a hard drive failure. It is still showing green here. Maybe it takes time, but let me check the status in terminal. Okay, it's saying one drive is down, and let's see what it is doing. It is not doing anything that makes sense because it has nothing to do, right? But let me go to UNVR Protect to see what's the status showing there. It's showing 6 drive and with the same capacity. It doesn't report any error. Interesting. Let me go to dashboard. Does it report anything? Nothing. It doesn't tell me one drive is down. Let me go back to the system settings. See here, because I just pop out the hard drive 6, which is this one, it's still showing green here. The delay is so big, it still doesn't reflect the current situation. Let me switch back to terminal to see whether it's doing anything. Still nothing, but it's active RAID file even though it's missing one drive. That's interesting. So basically, if in real world you lose one drive, the system even doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't sound correct. Okay, finally, after about 2 minutes, the global settings here is showing, finally is showing one bay is missing disk, but it doesn't say it's critical issue. Let's see what's the current storage I have. It's still showing green here and everything looks good. Okay, so maybe that's Ubiquiti's way to deal with one missing drive. Doesn't think that's critical. Doesn't looks good. But let me plug that drive in. Let's see whether the system will resync or recover the RAID. Let me push that drive in. On the device, the LED light is showing strange light pinkish color. Now it's flashing. Okay, now it's a white flashing color. Looks is the disk is recognized. Let me go to terminal to see what's the current status. Okay, all 7 drives are up. No resync is happening. No recovery is happening, but the MD0 is doing some recovery now. Let's see what's happening to MD3. Okay, MD3 has nothing to recover. I believe that's why I don't really have anything written to the RAID yet. So that's why for the MD3 it doesn't need to do anything. But for MD0, as we just discovered, is swap device. Maybe that's why the system does write something to swap. So that's why it needs some recovery. That's the only explanation I can have. Now let's go to the UNVR to see what's the current status. Okay, 7 drive, no problem. Now let's go to the system setting. Okay, showing all 7 drives green. Everything is great. So the whole simulation works and the system behaves slightly unexpected when I remove the hard drive. I don't know, maybe that's the UniFi way to deal with that. Okay, now let's try another setting to explore the options. So remember here, it has the redundant level. It has 2 options, one disk and half of the disks. We just tried the 1 disk, so basically it worked for either RAID 1 or RAID 5, depending on how many hard drives you installed. I believe the half of disks is for RAID 10, but I need to confirm that. Let me try it now. Now let me switch this option to half of the disks. Okay, confirm change. Reformat required. That makes sense if the system will switch from RAID 5 to RAID 10. Let me confirm. Interesting. It gives you 10 seconds to regret. I won't touch anything. Okay, I assume now the reformatting just started. Let me go to terminal to confirm. Interesting. It doesn't show any hard drive. I believe the system is still busy working on something to prepare the change. Let me refresh. Okay, here it needs about 10 seconds to reflect the change. Now it has, let me say, okay, active RAID 10, and it has all the way from 0 to 6, 7 drives. Oh, let me see. Wait, what happened? 1, 2. Yes, it has 7 drives, but here it says 6. Okay, that makes sense because it's RAID 10. So RAID 10, basically RAID 10 means RAID 1 plus 0. So I have 7 drives. The system cannot fully use every one of them. So one of them is spare. See the capital S here? Okay, that makes sense. So the system is using 6 drives, and let's see, for it's already done for MD3. That's interesting. We can find it out later. But another thing new to me is, see the MD0 RAID. It still says RAID 1, and all of the 7 partitions are part of it, and it's showing 7 drives. All of them are up. So basically for this swap RAID device, the system won't bother, won't change to RAID 10. It will still use RAID 1. Yes, that makes sense. Let me refresh the status. Okay, finally the system is working on MD3. For MD0, it's already done. And for MD3, now the system is resyncing the change. I believe, yeah, here it is. And need maybe another 14 hours. Okay. And we already checked this screen and the terminal. Let's go to the Protect and to see what's showing up here in the device section. Okay, makes sense. So it's only using half the capacity of the 6 drives, which is 12 terabytes, and it doesn't show the spare drive here in the Protect screen. That's also making sense to me. Okay, everything looks good, and after 15 hours it will be done. Okay, so basically now after all the testings, I fully understand how the different RAID mode works in UniFi UNVR Pro. And okay, so the system can smartly deal with different situations, but one thing makes me not very comfortable is my device is Pro version, which means it's for Pro. But all the UI thing, all the hidden information, still seems to me that the target user is for normal consumer. I don't think for the Pro line of product, Ubiquiti need to make it so-called user friendly. Just tell me whether it's RAID 1 or RAID 10 or RAID 5, right? And I can deal with that. Okay, that's my only complaint, if you will. Thanks for watching.